Welcome back to the Nose Plays Endless Legend Inferno. So we're back on my first recorded game of Endless Legend Inferno, and I want to just take a moment to appreciate the amazing artwork that the Amplitude team does with all of their games. This is some really cool structures, the buildings, and the every faction has a unique architectural style, and this is pretty cool. I really like the way that the Kapaku's buildings and structures look. It turned out really good, and I'm really excited to see it grow into the massive metropolis that we plan on building. That being said, we should probably turn the UI back on, and we need to discuss a couple of things. So, one of my viewers in the last video commented about a couple things that I want to address, and also I want to let you guys know that I kind of cheated, and I replayed turn 23, and the only thing I did differently was I remembered to pop my 2 boosters, which is going to give us a massive amount of approval. You may remember we were down in like the 30s, which was really bad for us. Popping these 2 boosters is going to give us 30 approval for the wine and another 10 approval for the moonleaf. We're also going to get some bonuses to science on cities, which is nice. We are having some issues with science, but we're going to fix those momentarily with some buildings that we're working on. In fact, I think I've already got one library up here, and we have another one queued up in this region, public library. So once we get these built, obviously 73 turns is a long time to wait. We're not going to be waiting quite that long. This is going to improve significantly in a little bit, and we'll talk about that. But let's talk a little bit about my opening. So there were a few things in the opening of the game in the first 20 or so turns that I want to address. The first of which is my decision to delay the construction of... Nope, wrong menu. Where am I looking at? Here we go. Of the Mill Foundry. So the Mill Foundry offers a flat 6 industry on a city, as well as 15% additional industry. So you get both a percent bonus and a flat bonus. Now, the percent bonus is roughly 1 to 2 points, rarely more than that. So you're looking at about 7 to 8 industry from this building in the early game. And one of my viewers, and I'm going to butcher his name, so I'm just going to call him Bob for short, commented that he would recommend starting with the Mill Foundry first, and I would normally agree with him on that. However, because we started with so much industry in our opening tiles, and then we immediately built a burrow which grabbed another 15 industry here, I think it was the right choice to delay that and to go with the seed storage first. And the reason for that is, in the early game especially, having industry is super important, but there are some diminishing returns that you recoup in time. It's kind of a weird delayed effect. So in the early game, if you have too much industry, it will roll over into the next construction, which is nice, but at some point the amount of industry needed for buildings in the early game is offset by how much you get. And what I mean by that is 6 industry or 8 industry, best case scenario. 8 industry is really good when you have a very small amount of industry. So if you end up in tiles like we have over here, where we have almost no industry in this building, you know, very small amount of industry, working on the Mill Foundry first probably is the better choice. And the reason for that is moving from a little bit of industry to some significant portion of industry will greatly reduce the number of turns it takes to get buildings built. But once you get buildings down to around 3 or 4 turns, it takes significantly more and more industry to actually shave a turn off of the construction of those early buildings. Now what happens is, as the game continues and you go to build tier 2 buildings, you need even more industry, and so the problem pops up again where what used to be enough industry to get stuff done in a reasonable amount of time no longer is, and you have to continually scale your industry throughout the game. But in the early game, if you start with tiles like we did over here, I think it's a perfectly viable option, and maybe even a more beneficial option, especially if you have an expansion like we did, where the burrow is really going to accelerate you in a different way. To go ahead and start with the seed storage first. There's another reason why I like starting with the seed storage first. There's two ways that I play with the seed storage. So you either start with the seed storage or you don't even build it until winter time. And the reason for that is there are two things that happen in the early part of the game. The first thing that happens that you really have to be aware of is in the first 20 turns, you're going to have to build a settler. And during that time, while you're constructing the settler, you will not be building any food. Your food is completely negated. You don't gain any food during the construction of a settler. And not only that, but you lose a population pip after it's constructed. In my opinion, one of the most efficient things you can do in the game is buy out a settler, because it removes the food penalty that you take for the number of turns that it takes to build the settler. You don't have to wait those turns to get the settler built, and therefore you're not slowing down your growth of your city. You are still slowing it down in the sense that you lose a population pip, but you're not losing the growth that you would normally get from the turns that you're constructing the settler. And so that's a problem when we're talking about the seed storage building, because if you build the seed storage building first and then you immediately queue up the settler, all of the benefit of the seed storage building is not happening during the time you're building the settler. So unless you get that building down like right away and you actually have, you know, 10 or so turns, 8 or so turns of benefit from the seed storage building before you queue up your first settler, it feels really bad to start with that building. The second thing that happens is that winter kicks in sometime between turn 15 and turn 25. It's kind of random. It's not a set number. It'll happen earlier some games and later other games, and you just never know exactly when it's going to happen unless you're playing the Alayi. And during the winter time, your food takes a massive hit, but more importantly than that, if I move back to this menu and I look at the seed storage, you can see that the plus 10 food that you get from the seed storage building is only during the summer. And so once again, if you build the seed storage, say you start with a settler early and you get the seed storage down, and then boom, winter hits. Once again, it's doing absolutely nothing. So in my mind, there are two ideal times to build the seed storage building, and that is at the very beginning of the game, so you get the maximum amount of time in the early game where you actually can grow your population several pips, 2 to 3 to 4 pips. We got up to 4 before we had to build our settler, which was really impressive. I challenge you to see how many pips you generally have after turn 20 in some of your games, and see if you're not building the seed storage, you're probably stuck at 2 or 3, and you know that's good, but as soon as you build that settler, it's going to drop you back down to 2. So keep that in mind. But the important thing to remember here is you either build it right at the beginning, where you get the benefit from that plus 10 food during the early part of the game, or you queue it up during the winter, and while winter is going on, you get this building built, and then as soon as winter ends, ideally, you come out of winter with an accelerated amount of food, and you get a little bit of a growth spurt right after winter. So that's my thinking on why I decided to go with the seed storage first. I felt like accelerating our pace towards our first burrow was a pretty good idea, and I felt like if I delayed the seed storage, I'm going to have to go ahead and delay it all the way till the end of the first winter. I don't know exactly when that's going to be, but that's my preference. So I'm either building it first or I'm building it during the first winter so that it's ready to go as soon as I come out of winter. That's always how I deal with the seed storage building. I think that's the most ideal scenario, or two scenarios that you can have for that building. Building at any time in between those two positions, I think is suboptimal because of the way that settlers interact with food, and also because of the fact that this building does not provide food during the winter. The other thing you can do with this building, and I have done this in certain games, is you can just skip it altogether and go straight to the tier 2 food building. And that's also a viable option, I think, in some games with some factions. So keep that in mind as well. But that's just a little bit of background on my reasoning behind that. A couple other things that I want to talk about. In the early game, I kept my armies grouped into groups of 2. So I had one scout heading out this way, another scout, and a hero heading out this way. And I did that on purpose. And there are games where I will split those up into 3 armies and scout with 3 armies. What you'll notice when you scout with 3 armies is that it puts a really massive strain on your early game income. And even more so if you don't end up with good tiles that have some dust to begin with. You can actually go into the negatives in the early game by running 3 units. In most situations, to uncover all or the vast majority of the tiles that are surrounding you, you only need 2 scouts. You can send one direction, one the other direction, and by about turn 10, you should have the vast majority of your neighboring regions uncovered. 3 will get it done faster, and that's definitely an advantage. However, it does put a strain on your income, and I fully intended to buy out the glass steel in the early game, and also to try to get a hero in the early game. And both of those things require a fair amount of positive dust income in the early game to kind of seed your ability to do that. It also requires a little bit of luck with searching ruins. We did have some good luck and some bad luck with ruins, but the very early dust eclipse also helped, because I think we got like 180 gold from that, and so that was really, really beneficial. But I think heroes in the early game, getting a hero down in the early game is really important in your first 20 turns. If you can find a way to get a second hero and get him into a governor spot, you're going to do a lot better in the long run, because heroes in a governor spot that have the ability to level up significantly throughout the course of the game are way more powerful in the late game, just at providing resources or providing really good defensive units to defend your territory with if you do get attacked. So that was the second reason why I wanted to get a hero down. So that kind of explains that. The last thing that I want to point out is during the combat with the Kazanji, I made it very clear the Kazanji were scary, and they turned out to be exactly that. I think there were some things that we missed talking about in that combat, and so hopefully we'll get a second opportunity to do that soon. The main thing that I forgot to look at real carefully was in the combat with the Kazanji, I had one unit that was on volcanic tile, or 2 units on volcanic tile, and one that wasn't. And I think if you go back and watch that, it's very clear that the unit that was not on volcanic tiles was much less effective in combat than the ones that were. I could be off, but maybe go back and check that for yourself. Rewatch that video and pay attention to where my units are standing. What I didn't look at during that combat that I really should have pointed out is the bonus stats that we get for standing on volcanic terrain. And in the next combat, hopefully we'll get an opportunity to do that. But I want to see exactly what those stats are, because it seemed like it was really, really critical to our success or failure in that combat. And if that's the case, building more of these volcano formers are going to be real important, and we're going to want to lay them down in enemy territory before we begin combats with them, so that we have some of these really, really ideal tiles to use. I'm going to go ahead and queue that up. And I have no research currently, so it's time to pick a new research. There's a lot of different things we could research right now. I think the thing that I want to research right now is the Geomancer. I want to take some time to play around with the different units. And we're in a phase of the game where we are building units for the next 20 turns. As I pointed out in the last video, I always like to take my first empire plan, which we can look at briefly right here, and I want to put points into the first tier of the empire plan so that I'm getting the 20% unit cost reduction. And this is, as soon as I activate this, this is when I want to start building my armies up. And usually I try to build 2 stacks of 4. So I have 1 stack of 2 usually at the beginning of the game. We lost one of our units in an early skirmish, so we're going to have to replace that one. But I usually try to build 2 more units and then another set of 4 during these 20 turns and take advantage of the fact that I'm getting a 20% reduction. That's generally my preference, not always in every single game, but it is definitely the case in this game that made sense to me. So that's what I decided to do. Let's look at... make sure we got stuff queued up. Empowerment's important. Our dust income is now positive. You may have remembered at the end of last game it was negative. The reason that we've gone back to positive has to do with the fact that we are now getting plus 15% dust on cities and plus 15% science on cities due to the population, or the not population, but the boosters that we activated. So that's going to keep us solvent for a little while, give us some time to get some of these other things built. And I've got 1 stone sentinel here. I've got 1 stone sentinel here, so we're at 2 stone sentinels. This will be 3, and then I'm going to go 4, 5, 6, and we may even cancel these ones and edit this. And I want to go ahead and give them the movement trinket, I think. Or no, we wanted to equip them with the battle axe. So the battle axe... okay, it's a 2-handed weapon. I guess this is a 2-handed weapon as well, so it doesn't matter. But this one has Ranged Slayer 2, which is pretty solid buff to damage against ranged units. We know for a fact that we're going to be dealing with the Vaulters, and so we want to make sure that that is equipped before we have to. I thought about also equipping them with the movement trinket, and I think that is going to be worthwhile. The extra movement during combat is going to allow us to close distance faster, and so we're not going to take as many turns of range damage before we get in and start to smash them in the face with big axes. So that's what we're going to do for now. We will want to try and retrofit our other 2 units, which it looks like I can afford to do right now. It's going to put us in a really dangerous situation in terms of income. But we're going to go ahead and get that done. And then the last thing that I need to do this turn, we need to look at our hero. And since we gave a movement trinket to our units, he has a higher movement than our units on the map anyway, so I guess we don't really need the movement trinket. So maybe we'll go ahead and pass on that. I still think that the hammer and the shield are better suited for this hero at the moment, even with the Vaulters. I think that's probably the ideal setup. The shield's going to help reduce damage from ranged units, so that's good. Okay, so do I want to move this guy out? I don't think I do. I think what I really want to do... well, we need to retrofit this. I thought we did that already. I think I want to garrison this guy. Maybe not. Maybe we'll just move him to a tile where he can start to recover. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yeah. He should be able to get to this tile. Yeah. So we'll go ahead and move this guy over here now. That is going to put us negative on income because we have a new army, but as soon as we group these 2 armies together, that will no longer be the case. And I think we're good to finish this turn finally. Building this unit's going to also reduce our income a little bit, but I'm not too worried about it. We're about to get the Empowerment. That'll get us solvent again. We want to move this unit out of the way. He probably could handle that fight if we really wanted him to, because we would get the garrison. But we want to give him a couple more turns to heal both of these guys. So we're just going to leave them there for the moment. I guess I could run them over here to get those pearls, but that's going to be difficult. All these ridges are really making it difficult to traverse this terrain. We could go ahead and move this unit Oh, that's right. This unit does not have the movement because we had already partially got him built, but we didn't have enough, so we're going to keep him garrisoned to keep our income neutral for the time being. Next turn we'll get the first Empire Mint done. 4 turns until we get this lava terrain built. And a couple more turns and we'll go ahead and attack this thing. It's not healing up, or if it is, it's healing very small amounts, and so we should be able to beat it pretty easily if we attack it. So construction is complete, and that was just our Stone Sentinel. One of the nice things that's going to happen in the early game with these guys is they do get a special tier 2 science tech. It'll show up right here, I believe, when we unlock it. It's part of our faction quest, and it basically makes Stone Sentinels have no upkeep cost. And so if we go to our army right now, we can see that our army has 4 cost from units, and so that will actually greatly reduce the amount of cost that we're paying on unit upkeep. So that'll be good for us. It'll help us keep our gold or our dust up a little higher than many other factions once we start to build a lot of these units, which we will. They're not terrible units, actually. They're pretty reasonable. Alright, I think these guys can take this guy now, so he's going to wander off. That's fine. You can see that we are back up to 12 dust per turn, and that's largely due to the fact that we built the Empire Mint last turn. I really want to build some more units. 3492, 3644. I think this is probably the tile we want to go ahead and expand to, though. The burrow's going to take a little bit of time to get up, but not too much, and then we'll go ahead and queue up. Well, let's see here. Next turn we get a Geomancer. We have 1, 2, 3 Sentinels currently, so 3 Sentinels and a Geomancer is probably where we want to stop with our first army. So we'll queue up a Geomancer next turn, and we'll be in pretty good shape there. Things are kind of turning around. We had a little bit of bad luck in the early game. I could go ahead and attack this guy, and I kind of want to do that. Maybe we attack him from here, though. We'll try to use our garrison, and in fact, because his health is so low, I'm going to go ahead and auto-battle this. I don't think we're going to lose any units. Yeah, we did not. So that went well. Now we got rid of that thing. And we need to deal with these minor faction villages so they can't keep spawning on us. Stone Sentinel leveled up. That's good. Let's see. Anything else we need to do this turn? I don't think so. Let's take a look at our quests just to make sure we're moving towards them. Pacify villages within your capital's region. Okay. So we need to come over here and pacify this Delver village. Maybe we do that before... So it'll take 4 turns to get there. And that is the fastest route. Yeah, let's go ahead and do that. That'll give us a few turns to heal up. And then we'll come back and deal with the Kazanji once we have a full stack. We should also have the Geomancer built by then, hopefully. And once the Geomancer's built, we'll have a full stack, so... Still can't retrofit this guy yet. Next turn we'll be able to retrofit. We are also 1 tech away from tier 2. So let's think about what will be the best tech moving forward. Looking at all the possible texts, I'm thinking either language square, sewer system, or open pit mine. I'm going to go ahead and research the sewer system now, and the reason for that is the only reason that our approval is reasonable as it stands is largely due to the buffs that we popped, and we are not going to have the opportunity to pop them again because we don't have any income from them. So this is not going to stay this high. We're going to fall down. We're going to need to be able to pick it back up to a reasonable level. So I think that is the decision we make there. And then once this gets built, and before we even queue that, let's go ahead and edit his. We have slow or we have exhaustion. I like exhaustion better. And then the other thing I like to do with these guys is because they tend to be backline units, and also because our vision is just so garbage right now. I want to go ahead and give them a little bit better vision. You only need to have one unit in a stack to give the entire stack better vision on the open map. And so this will give us a little bit better vision. We're also very, very close to reaching tier 2 where all of this is going to be upgraded anyways. But one of the cool things is if you have tier 1 armor, tier 2 armor is a little bit cheaper than if you don't have this. So if you try to go straight to tier 2 without going to tier 1 first, the cost is more significant. So you do recoup the investment a little bit by upgrading early. It's always worth upgrading if you have the dust to do it. Or in this case, if you have the industry. So that added a turn to the construction of that one unit, but that's fine. Okay, we're going to go ahead and end another turn here. Not exactly sure which tech in tier 2 we're going to take first. I have a couple of thoughts on that, and we'll discuss that a little bit more when we get to tier 2, but for right now we can go ahead and retrofit this unit, which is good. Unfortunately, we're going to be limited to 4 movement, or 6 in the case of the stack that has a hero, due to this guy's speed of 4. There is a tech, I believe. I believe our hero gets a tech. Yeah, +1 accessory slot. Oh, it's only on hero. Okay. Isn't there a +1 accessory slot for army? Maybe that's a different class tree. Well, that's kind of a bummer in that if we take one of those units, we're only going to have one. Or maybe it's I think it's actually a tier thing. So when we hit tier 2 or tier 3, it unlocks another accessory slot, perhaps. We'll see what happens. Until we can get 2 accessory slots, I can't run the vision trinket and the movement trinket, which kind of blows, but we'll deal with it. Alright, our city's looking good. Growing nice and effectively. Notice all these exploitation tiles we're now uncovering. Feeling pretty good about where we're at. I'm going to go ahead and queue up 2 more stone sentinels for now. And then the other thing I'm going to do is I'm going to redistribute some of our industry. Actually, I think we're going to leave it where it's at, and then we're also going to queue up a settler. And then once we get through the settler, we'll look at maybe redistributing things. Our hero has leveled up, which is awesome. That puts points in here, which makes our workers even more effective. And we're going to just continue to move down that tree. But this is... Now we're getting 7 industry per turn. Per population pip, and this is the other reason why I think population is a little bit underrated. Once you get into the mid game and you have ways to generate more resources per population pip, having a high population becomes incredibly efficient. So things like your empire plan, things like heroes, things like certain buildings that enhance the outputs of your population pips, those all need to be taken into account when you're doing the math on min-maxing what the best build order is. And I think too many people forget that. We can go ahead and move over here, and I think we're ready to go ahead and take on this Delver. We're one turn away from that. I'm going to go ahead and move this army. Whoa. Okay. I didn't realize that this was, yeah, that's a ridge. I thought for some reason that wasn't a ridge. The lava kind of threw me off. So he's going to have to run all the way around here to join this army before we can attack, which kind of sucks. But actually he won't. He can join as a reinforcement. I think that's fine. Yeah, let's go ahead and get this over with. How is that possible? I don't see why, unless it's just counting our main army and not counting our reinforcements. But I'm going to go ahead and auto this fight, just because I don't want to deal with the terrain. Okay. Iron Tier 2 weapons and armor are available for heroes and ground units. Newly trained units will now be veterans, level 2, and cost more. Watchtower foundations are revealed. Empire plan level 2 available. Legendary deeds for that era are unlocked. And I remember what it is now. It is this +2 army slot units, +2 garrison slots, +1 accessory slot on unit. So this is the technology that gives us the extra accessory slot. It is the technology that I think I'm going to rush first, just so we can get a stack of 6, which is important. I think I'm also going to follow that up with the Geoman, or the Golem camp, not the Geomancer. This seems to be incredibly powerful. It's a district, but instead of just gaining 3 tiles because of how you can place it, it can gain up to 7, essentially, 7 tiles that you are now working that you weren't working before. And you can put it anywhere within a region. It doesn't have to be connected to the rest of your city, which is different than any other borough district you can build. So it's pretty powerful, and I'm really digging it. I think it's almost guaranteed like first or second pick in Tier 2, just because it's so strong at accelerating your city production. New quest, Shaman's Insight. Okay, so this is the discount I was talking about. Stone Sentinels have no military upkeep. What do we need to do to get this? Assimilate a minor faction. We do have enough to assimilate the Delvers. Delvers are going to give us a 5% boost to our income. That's not great. I can't remember for the life of me what Kazanji give. I want to say it's influence. It's an influence buff, which is actually pretty useful. The fact that there are 2 potential Kazanji in this tile, we can look here, there's actually a third, so there are 3 Kazanji. So that would be a 15% buff to Kazanji, or to influence, if we take the Kazanji. Plus the Kazanji is a much more powerful military unit than the Delvers. So I think what we want to do is get our army together, get a group of 6, and upgrade their equipment as quickly as we can, and then get down here and take out the Kazanji before they get too strong. They're still only at 2 units per village. That will get bigger, and the units will get more powerful as the game goes on. So the longer we wait, the more difficult that's going to be. So we're not going to go ahead and finish this right away. guess the other option is, well, maybe this does make sense to do. We can change this later. If we go ahead and we grab these guys, it's going to greatly reduce the cost of our armies. So looking at the cost of our armies right now, I mean, we're looking at 9 and 6. You know, that's quite a bit. A big portion that's going to be shaved off. It's only going to get bigger as we grow, so maybe that does make sense. Okay, I'm going to change my mind. We're going to go ahead and we're going to assimilate these guys now. And then once we conquer the Kazanji, we may go ahead and kick the Delvers out and grab the Kazanji instead. But this is going to give us the dust to be able to improve our military quickly. Guess I can move to there and then move to him and then move down this way. The other thing we can do here is we can rebuild the Delver camp, which will give us an extra population pip. It's not a high priority, but it's something that I think we should do. We have a couple other options here too. The infantry canteen is not bad if you think that your city's going to become under attack. It gives you an extra militia unit for a very reasonable price. And stronghold architecture is actually really good once you have an army stationed in a city. So if you have like a defensive army settled down in a city, there are a couple of reasons to do that, but this will ensure that they continue to gain XP at a faster rate per turn and will actually level up over time. Whereas armies that are put in cities that don't have something like this don't level up nearly as quickly. So both of these buildings are kind of underrated if you're in a defensive struggle. We can see the blue player up here that we need to be wary of. We're kind of getting boxed in here. I really don't want to be boxed up against the ocean, but it looks like that may be what ended up happening. I think we should probably spend some time scouting the rest of this northern region before we come down and deal with the Kazanji. So that's probably where we're going to end up. Notice our dust is at plus 19, and I think it's going to go even higher starting this next turn. We'll see how it gets recalculated here. Yeah, up to 26. So I think that was the right call. 26 dust per turn is not bad at all. And then we'll just... Whoa! Okay. Well, let's take a look at their units. They have some foragers. We're looking at 50s, 40s, and 30s. Okay. So the only one of their units is really high level. This one's pretty high level as well. 70 attack, 50 defense, 50 damage. Yeah. If we compare that to our units, which are injured, you can see our units are very, very much outclassed currently. And a big part of that is because all the other factions at this point in the game have pretty much reached Era 2 and have upgraded their military units. So we're definitely going to want to retreat and hopefully start building up enough dust to upgrade our own military units. But that is a little bit terrifying, that we're dealing with both an aggressive Vaulter player and a Necrophage player right on our border. So this is definitely going to be a military focused game. Alright. We're definitely going to have to get a second military going. Another thing that just happened, you can see that all of these tiles are now producing much more than they were a few turns ago. And notice the number of turns to get some of this stuff done has come down dramatically because of that. Even with all the industry that we got, I think we're still pretty low, 15. So the mill foundry is definitely going to help a lot more than it would have over here, I think, building it early. We're still going to build it second, so I'm not going to worry too much about it. We could accelerate it a little bit by moving our population off of food production, but I think we're just going to leave it as is for now. So then the question is, do I just retreat and attack this village and get some experience there while we can recover? I think we do, because if we don't attack this village, we're not going to be able to get the experience from it. And we're clearly not going the path of diplomacy this game. Also, I think we just finished the research for the sewer system, so I'm going to go ahead and queue that up in both of my cities. That's going to... Our boosters are going to wear off in just a couple of turns. We got 3 more turns. So can I really can't accelerate that much faster than there. Wow. Yeah, the industry in our city is really good right now. We're going to leave that as is for now and get the sewer system up, which is going to help keep this high even after the boosters wear off a little bit. Remember, we're getting 40% from boosters. Plus 40 from several boosters, yeah, for 3 turns. That's going to drop all the way down to 30 if we don't get this built before the end of that. We're definitely going to be hurting on approval. Alright, we're going to try to do a few more turns here. Apparently, I cannot attack this village from that spot, so we're going to have to wait a turn. But that's fine. These guys will heal up a little bit more. This guy is now done, and he has better vision, so let's get him over there. Unfortunately, he's also going to slow us down just a little bit, but not for too much longer. We also need to consider getting another military unit over here and grabbing some more volcano formers so that we can get more volcanic terrain over here, because that's going to be really helpful for us. Also, this volcanic river is just really cool looking. You can see it coming down from this volcano and winding its way all the way to the ocean, where it's letting off a bunch of steam as it pours into the ocean. That's pretty neat. Okay. Oh, what else do we want to do? Search both ruins indicated by rays of light in these 2 cities. I didn't even see that this quest... so that's one of them. Where's the other one? Down here. Okay. Well, maybe that's what we should be doing with our unit. I keep going back and forth, but clearly messing with necrophage right now is feels like a dangerous proposition. We're not quite ready militarily to do that. I guess one thing I could do is try to attack this unit. Get that out of here so it doesn't pillage us here in the future. Let's go ahead and try to mash the attack button here. Alright, there we go. And we can auto battle this with the massive garrison. That should be a no contest. And then we'll continue moving over. I guess we're technically closer to this one. If I remember correctly, these are the haunts? No, they're the Gurren. Okay. Plus 4 influence on anomalies, and we have like 3 anomalies here, and 1, 2, 3 anomalies here, I think. So maybe just the 2. But we have a lot of anomalies, so we're going to get a massive influx of influence over the next 9 turns. That's welcome help. That also means... I guess we don't have to worry about moving any pips over to influence for the next Empire approval plan. It also, this always generates, this event always seems to generate sometime between turn 20 and turn 40. And I think it's specifically designed to give you the potential influence at that point in the game to start doing things like declaring war on your opponents. So keep that in mind. That particular event seems to always pop right after the first winter, sometime between first and second winter, and that's usually around the time where you start to get your army up and running at a significant level. So it's probably a good idea to bank on using that for war-related activities, or, you know, other stuff, but there are other activities you can use for influence, but that's where we're heading. So we're probably going to declare war on one of these two guys. I would prefer it to maybe be the Vaulters, but I'm scared to let the Necrophage kind of grow without... The Necrophage are a lot easier to deal with in the early game than they are in the late game. If you let them get going too much, too fast, it can really set you back. So maybe we take out the Necrophage first and we team up with the Vaulters. I'm not sure what the best decision is in that respect, but we'll find out. We're going to make one of them. And we're going to go ahead and continue. Finally get our seed storage done. We can get a burrow down. As you can see, once again, burrows are not very useful when there is not a lot of volcanic terrain. So we're not going to bother with the burrow just yet. We definitely need to get a cheap military unit out here. 10 turns for one of those, 13 turns for one of those. So maybe we just build a Geomancer in here. We'll move all this over here shortly. I want to get up to 4 or 5 population first. The other thing that I might consider doing is moving my hero over here. There's a lot of buildings that need constructing, and that's going to give a little bit of XP to my hero that he's not currently getting because we're just not building stuff. Well, I guess we're building stuff pretty quickly in Samoj. I guess we go ahead and move down here. I really didn't want to have to deal with all these guys, but hopefully they'll come and attack us, and that way we don't have to... I need to get our Era 2 gear equipped before we start really getting aggressive with our military units. They're just not equipped enough to really handle, without casualties, a lot of fights with a lot of units. Here we go. This should be an easy fight. Maybe this is one we go ahead and we manual. It looks like we're going to get some volcanic terrain that we can fight in. And it looks like 2 of our units are going to go before their units. Why does our hero only have 24 health? That seems really odd that our hero is so injured. I'm not too worried about him dying, because we'll definitely win this fight and get the last stand bonus. So we're going to have him charge in. He's got a movement of 6, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I actually want to move him there. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Yeah, and we'll attack this unit. Alright, This should go fine. Okay, so I'm trying to get the timing of this. So he's going to be the first unit that attacks. I want him to buff that unit. I want him to move to there and then attack that. He's moving first and hitting from that square. He's moving second. And actually, because I don't know where these guys are going to be positioned after they move, perhaps we just target them like that. Get everybody on him. Alright, let's see what happens. I think that's what goofed me up on the last fight. I'm still learning this tactics. It's been a while. I'm a little rusty for sure. Alright, well. That's painful. Yeah, this is our buffed unit. It's pretty good damage there. That one's down, and then this guy should be able to do some damage to... not fantastic. Alright, let's move him away and let's buff up that unit. Okay, that's actually good for us. He's attacking the full health unit. Nice, 49 damage. 22, that should almost be enough. Let's just go ahead and attack. No damage from that. Still alive? Alright, finally. And our hero doesn't die because of the last stand ability, so as long as our army survives, the hero actually comes back with like 1 hit point. Hopefully we don't have to fight anything when we come down here. You can tell after being in Era 2 for as long as we have that we're really starting to fall behind militarily. We're going to go ahead and create a new army with these, and I am going to go ahead and edit these guys' gear. We're not going to increase this. It's mainly just for the 1 bonus movement in military combat, so we can get around a little faster. I don't really need 2 extra movement on the map, I don't think. And then the Geomancer, we're going to edit and move him up to tier 2 weapons. Let me just make sure, tier 2, tier 2, tier 2, yeah, that looks good. And then our hero. Alright, that's all tier 2 gear. That costs 53. I can't even apply that, so... Wait a second, I have enough. Oh, he's not in one of our regions, so we can't apply it until he gets back. That's fine. We'll be able to cross the border right here very shortly. Okay, settler in 2. Where are we settling? I guess down here, maybe?
Probably should have thought about this a little bit sooner, huh? I'd really like a tile with an approval boost. There's one. So maybe we build right here and we build a long stick. I think that's probably the play. We don't want to get this guy built quite this quickly though. We're several turns earlier than we need to be. Oh my, and they have already forward settled us. Maybe not. Maybe we just go ahead and get this done. I'm getting real worried. I think we're going to have to build some defensive structures to help offset these aggressive AIs that we have here. I'm going to queue this up. And I'm going to move both of these in front of the settler for now. Just so that we can get that done and not have to worry about the settlers sitting around idle for too long. Because I don't want to settle my colony until after the Empire plan if I can help it. We're going to move over here with these guys. And we're going to build a new volcano former and set it down over here somewhere and expand the region, hopefully in a way that allows us to get some more good resources. One thing, there's a lava river here. I don't really see... I guess there is an extra industry point for the lava flow. So building this direction's probably where we want to do, and I want to get as many of these 3 tiles as possible. I could build my volcano former here. If I do that, I'm actually losing out on 1 tile of production, but that's probably okay. So let's go ahead and activate a new one. This one's going to cost more than the last one, but that's fine. We've got a pretty good income. Well, a pretty good stockpile, I should say. And we are making glass steel every turn, so that'll be fine. And that'll give us a good spot to build our next burrow. He's going to go down there and scout that next turn. We're going to get this up and running and get some defenses for our main city. One thing I can do, since my hero... I'm going to go ahead and give him the defensive clause. Yeah. So we're going to equip him out with some good defensive weapons. And that will help him defend the city a little bit better. And I think we're just about ready to end this turn. Okay, this deed is no longer available. Somebody else gathered the 30 units of a single resource, and it was 130 wine as a reward, which hurts, because that could have been a really good reward, but we leveled up again, so let's see, we can get a... So we can give a percent boost to our science, or we can increase our population's effectiveness. I want to take a look at our city's science output currently. So we're currently sitting at 39, so say 40, 15% is going to be 4 and 2, about 6 points of science. I don't think 6 points of science is worth what we're going to get in return from leveling up the other ability. Not yet. Maybe it will be later in the game when our science output's bigger and we have more science buildings and more tiles. But right now I think that's the one. Golem camp in 7, so our science is still pretty slow, but we'll work on that. We have the Era 2 technologies now, so we can build several things to improve the rate at which we're gathering science. We do need to get this down as well. I'm going going to go ahead and move that up, and I'm going to kick him out of the queue. We have these two guys over here now to do the job that I was originally planning for them. And then let's move out this way and uncover some map for me. We'll meet up with these guys after we search this. Okay. That should be easy enough. Search this again. And regroup. Our hero leveled up. So let's go ahead and give him a skill point. We can give them more attack on units, and give them more movement, or we can give him an accessory slot and accelerate our move up the ladder. I think the extra point of movement is worth it, so we're going to start with that. And we can't re-equip these guys until we get them all grouped up over here, so that's going to happen shortly. I've noticed that our income has stagnated again, so we need to be looking for ways to improve our dust output. Maybe we move the Empire Mint up the queue a little bit. I don't like stalling out. Also, burrows would be really good next. I think probably better than anything else. And we're 3 turns away from a settler. That puts us at 38. That gives us a couple turns to get over and get this spot. So we won't be waiting too long. Now all of a sudden our dust went to -3, and I'm not sure why that is. It was at 0 a moment ago. What did I do differently? I moved some stuff around in the queue. I don't know that I did anything else. That's curious. Does laying down a burrow have a dust cost? Maybe it's because our hero leveled up, and when I added that point, it increased his cost. That's a possibility. I do believe the cost of heroes increases as they level up. We can look at that real quick. Yeah, that's what it was. Upkeep cost is definitely different at different levels. Okay, well, I mean, this is a real easy problem to fix, right? And this is the power of population manipulation, and also the fact that we have the cultist hero in this city, which gives massive bonuses to the population pips. So we'll keep it positive, keep it running positive for the time being. We're not going to spend too many more turns on this particular video. I think I'm going to try to get my 3rd city down, and then we'll call it for today. But I am enjoying this quite a bit. It's been a while, and this game is really fun. I've almost forgotten how fun it is. Almost. Okay, now that'll help as well. So all of our units are in a single army now. The retrofit cost is significantly higher than we are able to afford. But let's go ahead and do what we can. So we can retrofit this one. Let's get our hero retrofitted first. He's probably the most important. Get tier 2 hammer, tier 2 shield. Alright. I'm going to go ahead and equip the improved vision trinket on our hero, but I'm going to use the obsolete trinket because I don't really need the sharp sense, and the secondary tier does not improve vision. So we're going to go with that one. His movement's already way higher than a typical unit, so I don't need the movement in combat trinket. So I think that's all we're going to do for now. Then I'm going to apply that. And then I'm going to edit our Geomancer to have the other trinket so he can move at the same speed as the rest of the units. And we are out of dust again. So that is it. I can't retrofit anybody. Something doesn't seem right there. I don't know why that costs so much. I should be able to swap those two trinkets. I thought they were the same cost, but maybe they're not. I guess if they're not, that makes sense. Yeah, we definitely need to figure out how to get some more dust going. This will help once this gets constructed. A second city will help. And maybe we start working on the museum. Since we have the ability to build the museum, it may not be a bad idea. I like the idea of putting the museum there for now. We haven't collected enough pearls to build the altar of Ariga. We're 1 pearl short, which is kind of annoying. Definitely going to have to find a way to increase our dust output. I think what we're going to do in the next Empire plan, let's go ahead and take a look at where we're at. We're probably going to go ahead and move over here and get the extra 3 per turn on cities, and then we're going to boost boost our income significantly. Looks like I might be able to get to 160 if I'm lucky. 160 would be really good. So we need 26. And we're making 21 a turn, so we'll definitely get that before the end of the this Empire plan. 3 turns we'll get 60 total. Yeah. Alright. So we should be able to do alright. The next 20 turns are going to be all about equipping our army a little bit more effectively, clearing out the minor faction camps, and preparing for war with the Necrophage or Vaulters, whoever shows aggression first. Preferably the Necrophage, but it'll just depend on what happens. Alright, let's crank through these last 3 turns quickly. Well, we found some pearls, that's good. I could build a volcano former here and start over here with 3 tiles, but we wouldn't get the approval benefit. And I think the approval benefit of plus 20 approval starting right here and then just building along this way, all the way across, is probably the way to go for this particular region. Maybe. Man, there's not a lot of industry here though. There's a ton of industry over here. It's going to take longer to get over there, but how many turns? 4? I think that's what we have to do. Alright, while we're over here, let's go ahead and make one more volcano former and let's get it started. Right there. We'll try this again. I tried building on top of a volcano former before and it wouldn't allow me to do that in one of my previous games. So we'll verify that that is the case, that you actually have to wait till the volcano former is done before you can build. We'll see what that looks like, but alright. Finally going to get the mill foundry done. That will accelerate everything else here. I think we'll keep the burrows there. Burrows are the most important buildings you can get down, in my opinion, when they're available. We're still positive because of this. How far away are we're really far away from the next burrow. But I do want to get this built before anyone else, so yeah, we'll just leave it as it is for now. Try to crank through a couple more turns here. Let's head over here. We'll get our pearl. We can now build the altar of Araga, and we're gonna have to deal with this army, but that's fine. Come on. No? Alright. Kill that. Move up. And we're going to have to quickly grab this territory, or maybe even this territory, before we get completely boxed in, and then we're going to fight our way out, it looks like. But we're good at that. We're good at fighting our way out, so I'm not too worried about it. The altar of Araga can be built, and I want to build it maybe right here. If I can build it in 2 turns, I think I should do that first, even though it'll slow me down just a hair. We cleared out the minor faction unit that was roaming here, so we should be safe to build over here. And so far so good. This army is going to search this and kind of defend this territory. Hopefully no necrophages jump in here. Oh, Fomorians. Alright, well, we can sneak around this way and kill these guys. We're going to leave our settler out of the battle so we don't accidentally kill them. That's going to finish another quest. And we're going to try to defend this border so that we can make sure we take this territory before anyone else. Quest updated. This is interesting. Plus 100 fortification on city, plus 10 fortification recovery per turn, an extra 100 XP when recruiting unit on units, minus 6 cost palladium. Can only be built once in your empire. This is an interesting building. I like it. We did get a reward of die. We can actually pop this booster now. I'm not going to pop it right this second. I'm actually considering it though, and the reason I'm considering it is die gives a % bonus to influence, and we are currently getting a ton of influence. But I think that's only going to last for a few more turns. I don't remember how many more turns that's going to last. It was 9 turns. We're almost through it, so at this point I think saving it for later might be the better choice. Alright, so we encountered the Fomorians and it's time to set our empire plan. I was thinking something like that. Looked pretty yummy. not quite, I'm one influence short of being able to do that as well. But I don't think we're going to be building a lot of armies over the next few turns. So I think this is probably good. This is going to reduce building production, which is awesome. Going to reduce turns on a lot of the buildings that we're going to be going into. Golem camp is almost up. Unfortunately, I can't do anything with Golem camp until this gets built. I can get this built in 3 turns. I'm going to have to delay everything else to get Titanium Extractor up. And I may even buy it out. But we're going to let this population continue to grow until the next round. In turn. Yeah, and this ended immediately, so that would have been a bad decision. We got the Altar of Araga built, which is good. And we can move this unit right here. And it looks like it'll let me drop it. Okay. Cool. That worked out really well for us. I guess that means we don't really need to go that way, so we can come back this way and start taking these guys out little by little. I still can't retrofit most of these guys, but I can retrofit this one. So now we have 2. We'll just have to do little by little here. So let's talk about what the best build order is going to be here. Probably that into the mint. Definitely going to need the sewer system. Maybe even sooner than later. We're at 40%, so we're still content. So I think we're fine without the sewer system right away. In fact, the sewer system is not even going to help us because it's going to push us to the top of the content range, but not actually into the happy range unless we're running a booster. So I'm just going to leave that off for now. We are running negative food currently, so I'm going to have to put my first population pip over here, which is fine. That does lower our income, but as soon as we get this built, all of this population is moving over to dust, and we are going to crank out some dust and get some more heroes, finish upgrading all of our units. So things are going to be looking up for us soon. The other thing that I'm considering doing very much is potentially building the husbandry center in this region in our capital, because this region has the potential to grow an incredibly large triangular city, which is super efficient, and the faster we can get population running, the better. So I'm also going to throw that in the queue, and that's going to just massively increase the speed at which we gain population in this city. So I think we're in a good spot. It's a little bit precarious with all of the aggressive AIs kind of boxing us in, and we're definitely going to have to spend some time once we get our economy established and everything, building some defensive armies. We're going to have full garrisons in all of our frontline cities, and we're going to have at least 1, maybe 2 dedicated military heroes with armies ready to go in the next few turns. But I think this is a good place to go ahead and end it. So I'm going to go ahead and save the game, and we will continue from this point. So we'll save the game, and this is turn 44, I think? No, 41. Alright, so we'll pick up from this point in the next game. I hope you're enjoying the videos. If you have any comments or any questions about why I'm doing the things I'm doing, sometimes I don't even know, so it's always a good idea to ask in the comment section below, and hopefully I get a chance to read it before I make the next video and we can talk about it a little bit. So Until next time, this has been The Nose Plays. Have a great day.